Well, I'm back in Moscow after the New Year holiday, back with the Russian papers, and in Nezavisima Gazeta this morning, the top story is the economy. Russian consumers start to replenish the state coffers. The New Year holiday ends with a sharp rise in inflation. At the start of 2026, the jump in inflation is faster than before. Experts believe that what's affecting the situation is the finance ministry increasing VAT to fund defense and security. In other words, Russia's war in Ukraine is hitting Russians in the pocket. As the paper points out, the increase in the tax burden was designed to help the state budget with additional funds in the context of the special military operation. Here are some figures. As of January the 12th, inflation in Russia against the backdrop of an increase in the base VAT rate amounted to 1.26%. In comparison, in the whole of January 2025, prices rose by 1.23%, in January 2024 by 0.86%, in January 2023 by 0.84%, and in January 2022 by 0.99%. The headline in Moskovsky Komsomolets: Galloping Inflation. Food prices have risen markedly since the start of 2026. In the year of the fire horse, prices have galloped away. The price of cucumbers is up 21.3%, tomatoes 13.6%, potatoes less so, but they're still among the price rise leaders. They've become nearly 6% more expensive over the New Year holiday. Kommersant reports that Russia's electricity exports to China have stopped. From January the 1st, China has completely stopped buying electricity from Russia due to high export prices, which in 2026, for the first time, are higher than the price in China. Several of the papers report Vladimir Putin's comments yesterday at a ceremony for new ambassadors. He didn't mention America or Donald Trump, but this part of his speech, reprinted in Komsomolskaya Pravda, seems aimed at Washington. Diplomacy, the search for compromise, are increasingly being replaced by unilateral and very dangerous actions. Instead of a dialogue between states, there is a monologue of those who, by the right of the strongest, consider it permissible to dictate their will. So says the leader who nearly 4 years ago ordered the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. And finally, back to Nezavisima Gazeta for this opinion piece on whether, if Donald Trump increases pressure on Cuba, can Russia somehow prevent regime change in Havana? Moscow does not have any levers for this. A repetition of the Cuban Missile Crisis in this situation is impossible, because the influence of the then USSR, with its military power, cannot be compared with today. Among other things, modern Russia is unable to fully support Cuba, as Moscow once did, primarily for political reasons. As in the case of Venezuela, Russia can at most express a diplomatic protest or dissatisfaction at the level of head of state, but it is unlikely to risk intervening in a possible conflict at the military or economic level, that is, by breaking through a US oil or trade blockade. In this situation, it's also fundamentally important how long and in what way Russia can turn a blind eye to the White House's anti-Cuban course in the context of its current relations with Washington. Even if we put aside Ukraine, both sides are accumulating so many irritants every day that a sharp aggravation of US-Cuban relations could lead to an even greater escalation in the Russia-US dialogue, which for now still has hopes of being restored.